Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm PPE and this is the Peso Pro episodes where we talk about money management tips and peso tricks. For today, I'm gonna cover a topic that is very important, especially these days. I'm gonna share my 5 top tips to avoid being scammed from your credit card transactions. Let's jump right in. My first tip is actually to not allow your browsers to save your credit card information. Remember, pag nag-purchase ka from a website, for example, and you enter your details when you're in the checkout page, typically Google Chrome or Safari or any other browser will ask you to save these credit card details for later. And while that's very convenient, sometimes it's also very susceptible to credit card information theft, or maybe sometimes there are very slight chances, but it does happen in the past where these information are actually stolen from their databases. So it's best to just not save your credit card information and just have your credit card ready when you need to make a purchase. It also helps you from not making impulse decisions because it takes an extra step to actually get your credit card and not just rely on your browser's memory na madali lang i-click tapos mapibili mo na yung item. Tip number 2 would be very basic, but I know a lot of people still fall for this, and it's really not to share your credit card details. Typically, we want to withhold the entire credit card number, and in a lot of cases, even yung last 4 digits lang, because there are some cases where they can sort of figure this out. So it's best to really just cover your credit card number. I like that a lot of banks now put the credit card number at the back of the credit card, so hindi na siya mas madaling makita because it's all hidden, which is, I think, a very genius and simple way to sort of help make it private. The other one is you can also make sure that you cover your CVV or yung 3 digits sa likod ng card. Typically, this is used to be a secondary way to confirm na ikaw talaga yung card owner and that you have the card in your possession. A good and maybe archaic, makalumang solution is that you can actually cover this with a piece of masking tape. It doesn't really hamper the card's performance, but it does add a layer of protection because hindi siya madaling makita. So I actually do that for most of my cards. The last one is you can also make sure that you hide your expiry date because typically this is the information na nire-require when you make purchases online. Next, and quite related to the second tip, is not to share your one-time PIN. The one-time PIN is actually there to sort of act as a secondary authentication method na ikaw talaga yun. Typically, they would send the one-time PIN via an SMS or an email, or in very few cases, it would be via a call to your registered number or email address. So, meaning, they want to make sure that they give you an information into a verified channel and na ikaw lang dapat yung makakakuha. Now, obviously, if you're working this with a friend or a family member at magkatabi kayo, then okay lang because you trust that person. But if somebody randomly calls you and tells you they are so and start asking for an OTP and hindi ito verified channel, meaning you were not the one calling your bank, for example, be very aware, and I would almost always say just hang up on that call because that call is probably a phishing attempt or an attempt to steal your credit card information. A lot of cases, banks will not ask for an OTP to be said over the phone. They will actually ask you to encode it into a prompt, meaning may tawag, and during the call, they will ask you to encode that number. So, be aware if a person calls you and asks you for credit card details, the one-time PIN, it's almost always like an attempt to steal your credit card information, or they're actually making a purchase right there and then. My fourth tip would be not to click on links from suspicious-looking emails. Typically, what are suspicious-looking emails? Ito yung pinakamahirap na part to understand. One good tip would be to look at the sender. Typically kasi, makikita nyo dyan, for example, BPI Online or Union Bank or whatever your bank name is. they would probably be there. Pero kung yung pangalan na yun is something na parang hindi yung normal mo na nakikita from legit promotional emails, etc., then that should trigger a response na, oh, maybe dapat i-check ko muna yung sender ng email. Now, before clicking on any link, a good practice would be to look at the actual email address and tingnan nyo yung URL or yung parang at something.com or .xyz, whatever. Check the domain of the email address para makita nyo kung ito ba yung domain ng bank nyo talaga. Typically, from this check, you would be able to successfully identify kung medyo scam yung email because they cannot use the official email host of the bank. So, for example, for BPI, bpi.com.ph yung official bank website. Typically, all of the official emails from BPI would be from whatever at bpi.com.ph, right? So at least you know that the host and the domain is really from the very credible source. Kapag hindi siya yung website ng bank mo, the chances are this transaction is not legit, and I would urge you to actually just delete it and don't take action on that email. Now, if the message of the email is very scary, meaning, for example, you got charged for this amount, or we're gonna close your account, we're gonna delete your credit card, whatever. If it causes some alarm, the best practice would be not to click on that link. What I would suggest you to do is to take a copy, meaning pwede nyo i-screenshot, you can print the email. Again, don't click on any link. Because sometimes, even just clicking on the link, kahit parang walang nangyari in the front, there may be malware already installed in your computer. So just don't click on anything. You can save a screenshot. You can print the email into a hard copy. And call your bank sa kanilang official number so that you can check that specific message kung totoo ba talaga yun or hindi. In a lot of cases, if there are other warning signs in the email, typically, yung header image is parang hindi yung normal na nakikita nyo. However, this is probably not the best way to spot it because gumagaling na rin yung mga scammers. Other telltale signs would be, for example, yung emails, maraming typo errors, or the information seems to not be very, very credible, right? Sometimes sasabi sila na, nanalo ka ng ganitong amount, na parang wala ka namang sinalihan, or parang wala namang any qualifying promo that you can remember your bank sending you via email or via your bank statement. Things like those will help you really try to understand kung alin yung mga scams and alin yung mga good promotional offers that are really coming from your bank. Just as a recap, a top tip would be not to click on any link and make sure that yung host or yung domain ng email is the domain of your bank na kilala nyo. When in doubt, don't take action. Call the bank to verify before you do anything. Anyway, if there's any major thing that will happen to your account, typically the bank will attempt to call you. So, from their official number, and you would be able to know this through practice. My last tip would be just make sure that when you read through mga different promotions, because there are a lot of promotions these days when the world has shifted to e-commerce and digital spending. So now, credit card theft is not really anymore the physical card na ninanakaw, right? It's really a lot to do of where and when you use your cards. And especially now with online platforms or platforms that accept PayWave or yung mga digital na mga NFC technology, one good tip I have for the online purchases would be to check if your card offers an option na may digital card that is a one-time credit card number. What does that mean? Some cards offer you a digital credit card number that you can use one time for one transaction, pero sa card mo pa rin ma-charge. It gives you an extra layer of protection because the number na ini-encode mo dun sa website is a one-time use credit card number. Meaning, after ng transaction na yun, hindi na niya magagamit yun. Or kung gagamitin man niya yun, wala nang mangyayari dun sa number na yun. Right? So that's one way. It's not yet available for all banks, but if your bank has that facility, I strongly urge you to use and maximize that facility for your online spend. Secondly, for those with NFCs, right? So, sometimes ang ginagawa, hindi na nagsaswipe. Tinatap mo na lang yung card. Which actually makes it also a bit more susceptible for data theft. Kasi kahit nasa bag mo siya, pwedeng somebody can be beside you, they have a scanner or a reader, they can actually get information from your credit card while it's in your bag, in your wallet. So maybe a good investment would be to invest in bags or wallets that have NFC protection sleeves. So you can buy a cheap NFC protection sleeve online, or you can buy bags that have this built in, where if you put your wallet, may block yung fabric na ginagamit nila that really eliminates the transmission between the card and the reader pag nasa loob siya ng bag mo. Some wallets also have this, so it's a good way for you to just be protected while you're maybe walking around or going to public spaces, and you might be susceptible for data theft, especially when you're traveling also, because it's an entirely new place. Those are my top 5 tips to help you avoid being scammed or avoid having weird transactions from your credit cards that you may not notice. It's not 100% foolproof na kapag ginawa niyo yung 5 tips, wala na talagang mangyayaring masama. But it does help limit those instances and helps you get prepared for the threats that are coming our way, especially in a more digital world. I hope this was helpful. If you want more videos like this, I'll leave these 2 right here. And please, if you found value in this video, hit the like button and the notification bell so that you're notified when new videos are up. And if you want to learn more about personal finance, consider hitting the subscribe button. It really means a lot. I'll see you again in the next one.